all my biggest erotic fantasies, all the money in the world I could have, none of this will save me, and I want to be saved. So I renounce the world emotionally. I don't put on the world what it cannot give me, because it can't, and it will never. People think about karma this and how, and I'm limited by karma. He says none of that. If you take refuge in God, all karma wears away. There's a different set of rules. There's the rules in the universe. It's like you have programmers on a different program, yeah? You can use the program as a user, as a half admin, or as the total admin of the whole thing. You have totally different rules if you love God. And if you don't love God, yeah, all the suffering of this world and all its limitations, they're all binding you. But if there is love, all the rest doesn't matter. And he prayed like this. He says, Mother, here is my sin, here is my virtue. Take them both. I don't need them. Give me love for you. Here is my knowledge, here is my ignorance. I don't need knowledge and I don't need ignorance. Take them both and give me love for you. Here is my dharma, here is my adharma. Take them both and give me love for thee. This is his essential teachings. This is the only thing that matters. And if you focus very deeply only on that, or let's say predominantly on that, everything will open from there. It's very easy. By the way, he says all these things, one thing he could not renounce. If you want to know the one thing Ramakrishna could not renounce for the sake of love for God, read the book, The Gospel of Ramakrishna, or any of his biographies, yeah? So I can inspire you, at least those who are curious, to read. In my life, this teaching, somehow I met the Gospel of I read Ramakrishna already for the past 20 years. I read a few, 4 or 5 biographies. But then 2 years ago, I met the Gospel of Ramakrishna. I met the audio book. It's maybe 70 hours. It's quite a few volumes. And one of his disciples describes there, date so-and-so. We came to the master and we had some chapatis and some pudding, some mangoes, and we spoke about how this person lost their job, and then somebody said something spiritual and the master entered samadhi. And every day, 3-4 times, he would enter samadhi, and again the master entered samadhi. And he would put the leg on somebody and that person would also enter samadhi because Ramakrishna touched him in samadhi. And they would just sit there at awe, looking at him and absorbing the spiritual power. Now, reading this book in the past 2-3 years, it took me maybe 1.5 years to read it. I finished it. It was heartbreaking when it was over, you can imagine. For me, this makes perfect sense. And I learned and trained myself and became certain that this is the center of my life. This one prayer. To love God more. And God for me has many forms and is also beyond form. Mostly beyond form, but also in form. And to renounce the world. I'm 41. I checked. This world will not save me. Everybody in the world can praise me and consider me the most wonderful person. All my biggest erotic fantasies, all the money in the world I could have, none of this will save me. And I want to be saved. So I renounce the world emotionally. I don't put on the world what it cannot give me, because it can't, and it will never. And just to understand, this is the world. I have to do my duties in it. There's some great people, God exists in them, I love them. But I don't expect that attaining this or attaining that or attaining that in the world, or getting this or getting that will save my soul. I lost all hope, zero. Or I'm in the process of losing it, to be more precise. But I'm sure that I want to lose all hope for that. And then I'm sure that I want to love God more. And everything in my life, from the moment that I wake up with this love to the moment I go to sleep with this love, to the lecture that I'm giving now, to writing this lecture, to the interaction with the people, everything is charged with that love. And this is the one value that I believe in every life decision. I can return to this one solid point. I have a cornerstone, and that is love for God. And this gift was given to me, or let's say was put in that clarity through Ramakrishna. And the space in which it was created was given by my master, by Greek, and this entire school and practices that allowed all this to be crowned. But essentially, this spiritual teachings, this one principle that he indicates, is the center of my life. And I can assure you 100 times that it works. And that if you love God, God appears. And then you forget a bit, but then appears again. And if you love God, and if you cry for God, God will be there and He will embrace you. And no human embrace is like the embrace of God. No human comfort is like the comfort of God. There's nothing more purposeful, there's nothing more meaningful, not just for you, but for the world, than to create a link with God. This is the essence of everything. This is the goal of human life, and the direct experience of it is without any doubt. And inside of that love, and of that detachment, everything in life falls in place. Don't worry about the rest. Everything falls in place. And you know, I didn't stop my duties. We built a whole ashram inside this love, and built 3 international schools, and held relationships, and took care. It's not, you don't need to stop your duties. It's an inner thing. Stop wanting to be saved by the world, and start wanting fully, completely to be saved by God. And in this process of loving God, all virtue awakens. Fear disappears and courage appears. Selfishness disappears and generosity appears. Everything appears naturally as a consequence of this intense love. Among his main disciples, I'll just name a few. One which was very close to him was Rakal, that later became Swami Brahmananda and the head of the Ramakrishna Association. And another one which is very much worth mentioning is Swami Vivekananda, Narendranath, as he was called before. Before Ramakrishna met Vivekananda, he saw him in a vision. It's one of the most beautiful visions I've ever heard. There is a space of infinite light. That is God, the Absolute. That space of light is condensed into a baby. This is an incarnation, an avatar. It is not a soul that incarnated in Ramakrishna, it is God Himself. And then that light is condensed into a baby, and that baby is the divine child Ramakrishna, and in his floatiness there in the light, he sees one of the great rishis, Naran, who was also Arjuna, from Krishna and Arjuna, and he tells him quickly, I'm going down. You want to come? And this great rishi there in eternal meditation, an accomplished being, nods. And they both go down to the earth. And then at a certain point, Ramakrishna gets a vision and he sees my friend there for my life mission. It's called Ishvarakuti. When a great incarnation is born, he incarnates with some friends. And he sees, this one, if he enters Samadhi once, he will die. He will leave his body. He doesn't want anything from this world. So he prays to Kali and he says, give him a lot of trouble. Complicate his life. Entangle him in Maya. Otherwise, he will not be able to help with the spiritual mission. And when Ramakrishna prayed, Kali helped. So Vivekananda has so many problems. His father dies, they lose the house, they have loans, nobody can make money. He needs to make money, nobody hires him. He's just 18, he goes for days without eating. He's completely broken and he cannot now leave creation because he loves his mother and his family and he is the sole provider. Vivekananda doesn't believe in God, he's not sure. He doesn't believe in the scriptures. He's very intellectual, he's extremely bright. one of the brightest minds that I think that humanity has known, Vivekananda. He said he would read a book, and then he realized it's enough he reads the first line and last line of every page, and he read all of it. And then he could just read a few lines and he would remember the whole book. He read the entire Encyclopedia Britannica in the end of the 19th century, and he memorized the entire Encyclopedia Britannica. This was Vivekananda. He would go to Ramakrishna and torture him and says, but if God exists, why is there bad and why is there evil? And if you say you see God, then why like this? And come with intellectual and torment him. And Ramakrishna says, well, if you disagree with everything that I say, why do you come here? You come here every day to argue. And Vivekananda says, I don't come to hear you speak. I come only to look at you. And Ramakrishna softened. In his first visit, Ramakrishna saw him and he took him to the side. And he says, I'm so happy you arrived. And he cried and he says, Naranya, you are here with, I am so happy, how I love you. These people, they only speak about money. I can't stand them. Finally, I have a friend. And Vivekananda was like, ooh, the old man is a bit cuckoo. Come inside. And then Ramakrishna, like Ramakrishna, enters Samadhi, put his foot, it's probably a dirty foot. It wasn't that he lived in an operation room, you understand? It was dirty. He put his foot like this on Vivekananda's chest, and Vivekananda said, the world started turning, I stopped feeling my body, I was in this immense infinite space, and I was spooked out. And I yelled at him, don't you know I have a family? How can you do this to me? Yeah, he entangled him in Maya. He says, okay, no force, no force. He took his leg down, and Vivekananda will not enter Samadhi for many years. He would try and he would not. He kept saying, this disciple is like a lotus of 6 petals, that one like a lotus of 12 petals. But Vivekananda is a lotus of 1,000 petals. This disciple is like a bottle of water, this one like a cup of water, but he's like a reservoir of water. Nobody can match him. And all the disciples were like, what? We follow you, we love you, we take every word. This person just argues. He says the Gita was not written by Krishna. Moses wrote his own death in the Bible. It's unreliable. He doesn't believe you, he doesn't believe anything. And you keep saying, Vivekananda, Vivekananda. But it was true. Vivekananda was basically asking spiritual masters, do you see God? And they all said no. He says, well, then why should I study from you? And then when he asked Ramakrishna, do you see God? And Ramakrishna said, of course I see God. I see God much more clearly than I see you, with a much higher intensity. So that's why Vivekananda stayed. And gradually, towards the end of Ramakrishna's life, literally the last 3 or 6 months, Vivekananda starts to gain faith. And he starts to realize this is God incarnate. And towards the end of his life, more and more of the disciples realize this is not just an enlightened master, this is an avatar. This is Krishna himself. And he has visions, Ramakrishna, that Satchitananda is his own body. That he is not an incarnated soul, but an emanation of God. At the end of his life, Ramakrishna gives Vivekananda 2 initiations. He gives them the mantra Ram, that Ramakrishna was repeating all the time. And when Vivekananda, who was a very honorable man, receives this mantra, he walks back and forth in the yard or in the hallway, I don't remember, saying Ram, 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 Ram. He was completely tranced out for hours with this mantra. And then literally on Ramakrishna's deathbed, Ramakrishna gives him all his paranormal powers. And then he cries and he says, all my powers are gone. I'm just an ordinary man now. And Vivekananda will display some immense paranormal. It will be another lecture, but he will display some immense paranormal powers in his life. Vivekananda tells Ramakrishna, I would like to live in Samadhi. From time to time go and eat some food, but I want to live in Samadhi. And Ramakrishna starts crying and he says, no, you are a banyan tree. that can host thousands and millions of people under your branches. It is not your role to enter Samadhi. He said, I put you once in Samadhi and I will hold the key for Samadhi here. When you complete your mission and everything you have to do and your dharma and your life purpose is gone, I will open the door and you will enter Samadhi again. And Ramakrishna knew once Vivekananda enters Samadhi, that's it. He will leave his body. And Vivekananda knew, and he said, I will die before the age of 40, and just a few months before, he completed his life mission with glory. And then he just told one of his friends, come with me, I'm going to lie down and kind of say goodbye to the world, closed his eyes, and boom, Mahasamadhi, and goodbye. The other main disciple of Ramakrishna was his wife, Sarada Devi, who lived with him actually only in the last 2 or 3 years of his life, but received a tremendous Shakti from him and later became a great spiritual master of her own. And basically, when Ramakrishna passed away, the disciples would go to Vivekananda and to the Divine Mother, to Sarada Devi, to receive teachings from there. There's a lot more to say about Ramakrishna, but we will stop here with the presentation.
Hey guys, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content on spirituality, Tantra and more.
And if you want to sign up for our online classes or for our retreats, you can see our website on the description below.